Hey guys, I am Big and Scary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in our top left corner NhcAskaria, our red Protoss, and in the bottom right our blue Zerg is EchO.Todes from Team Echo. We are on Ohana. Both players, I believe, are in Masters, and this is going to be a fun time had by all. I guarantee it. We actually just saw a ZVP, Zerg versus Protoss, featuring EchO.Todes against a non-Forge fast expanding Protoss, and since Ohana is by far and away far larger than the previous map, I expect to see a more traditional build coming out of Askaria. And there goes the pylon at the proper placement on the low ground. He's going to be doing a Forge Fast expand, so we're going to see if Todes has to switch up his build. Remember, he went gas first in the previous one, and actually I noticed it after watching the replay that he never sent out a drone scout at all. Relying 100% on the Overlord, which is awesome, except it's very delayed, and it also has a harder time getting in there and scouting out the gas timing. A drone usually you can pretty much guarantee that he's going to get in there and see exactly what gas timing there is. If you send an Overlord and you run the risk of losing it and then having to sacrifice a second one later on at like the 10-minute mark, just to see exactly what sort of shenanigans your opponent is getting up to. EchO.Todes is throwing down that gas first, just like last time. He's got the 200 gas, and it looks like he's going to be throwing down the pool 2, just to the south of it. And of course, Askaria's probes, knows all, sees all, gets just within range to see that the spawning pool has indeed gone down. So he's going to know that the next thing to go down is going to be that hatchery, probably. I mean, it's the 15 supply mark. Definitely a safe assumption. The gas timing, I'm going to pay more attention to exactly when it hits 100 to see if it's right whenever the spawning pool finishes, because I remember the timing being very close. However, I'm not 100% sure if it was dead on. Once you get to the Masters level, though, that's something that you can expect to see, is those really tight timings, really close timings, and it's something that differentiates the Diamonds from the Masters, is that sort of finesse. Speaking of finesse, Askaria is throwing down his wall off with just a practice ease, getting that forge up, another gateway right next to it, so the choke is going to be progressively narrow, maybe a pylon just to the south of it to make sure that one zealot's all that's necessary to finish it off. Look at that. Right as soon as the spawning pool finished, he had 100 gas, starting that metabolic boost pretty much instantly. Wow, double pylon too. Just to be doubly sure, I guess. I mean, the probe's still alive at Askaria. Askaria's probe is still alive in EchO.Todes' base and was getting chased around by those Zerglings, but on creep, how long can that probe survive? Also, that probe didn't go down and throw down a pylon or anything like that to block off the hatchery, but with 4 Zerglings already out, that money would have pretty much been wasted. The pylon placement is really just to deny the Zerglings that are beginning to make their way across the map. But check this out, EchO.Todes crosses his T's, dotting his I's, scouting around with his first round of Zerglings rather than going off to do any pressure that he knows is going to be pretty much useless on the main base there. Using his Zerglings wisely instead, just to check around to see if there's a proxy pylon that was thrown down by that scouting pool, or something like a 2-gate harassment, which would have been pretty late at this moment, but definitely not unheard of. EchO.Todes being a little ballsy with his Overlord just to scout out the gas timing. Remember, he's pulled all of his workers off gas currently because he's trying to get up enough money to resaturate, or just, I guess, initially saturate that natural down on the low ground. Where's this kid going? Is he going to be going down to the 3rd to throw in an expansion? It sure looks like it. He's got so much money. EchO.Todes just hasn't queued up the hatchery. There it goes right now. So a very aggressive 3-gate expansion, but it's because his Overlord has scouted such a very aggressive economic build coming out of Askaria. He came in with his Overlord, took a look-see around the home base just to see if there was a pylon next to a robo or a pylon next to a ridiculous number of gateways. But he's only just now throwing down the Cybernetics Core, and that's why you can be so ballsy with that Overlord. There's nothing on the field that can fire up. So definitely a good read there from Todes, just to see exactly what his opponent is doing, and realizing that the Askaria is playing a very economic, a very long-term game here. And so in order for Todes to stay competitive, he either needs to do a Baneling bust or a Roach bust at the front door, or easier, just take a 3rd base, saturate that instead, get gas later. He's getting the 2nd extractor down at the natural, which is a really cool idea. You do that so that the opponent can't, if he does succeed in throwing an observer into the main base of Todes, he's not going to see all the gas. He's just going to see one gas timing down there, and if he does only send it down to the natural, he's going to assume that there's 3 gas being grabbed. So it's just something that you can do to make your opponent misread, but it's definitely not earth-shattering if you fall for it. This pylon is going to go down. We all knew it. It's might be worthwhile to throw the photon cannon in on the action for that just to speed it up. But look at all the money that's being banked right now by Askaria. He's almost got 500 cash. Does he want to do a 3rd expansion of himself, or is he going to be throwing down a bunch of gateways as soon as this warp gate tech is finished? Not 100% sure, but he's going to have to do something with that money because it's 600 minerals. You really want to spend that money. You want to start on upgrades. You want to start on tech, something like that. But since LhcAskaria already has the speed done, he's definitely in control of the map. Double checking to see if that 3rd did indeed go out. That probe was on its way down south, probably hoping to throw up a proxy pylon right around here, and we can see the robotics facility getting started now, but I think that robotics facility is because the probe couldn't get down there farther south to start that proxy pylon. I think what he wanted to do was throw down more gateways and do some sort of harassment down here at the 3rd, because it's a reasonable expectation of your opponent just to, you know, assume that they're going to grab a 3rd expansion, since you're not going to be able to do any pressure for the time being. Spore Crawlers going down. Evo Chamber already finished with the +1 armor on the way. +1 weapon is very much delayed, but going to be finished well before +1 armor, so he's going to have a bit of a lead there. There goes the 4 gateways back at home. So 5 gates total with 1 robo, 2 gas plus the 2 going up at the natural. So Askaria has finally arrived at a bit more of a solid economic standing. I mean, 48 over 54, but that's because he hasn't managed to push out and take that 3rd, and I think that's what he wants to do, which is why he's getting those gateways, why he's getting out that 1st immortal plus the +1 weapons and armor. It'll allow him to actually push out and take that 3rd. I don't think he's gearing up for any sort of timing attack. I think this is him hoping and waiting for that in-game tech. I don't see anything he's not going for a zealot stalker, a zealot sentry and immortal mix, because he would have gotten his sentries out well before now, so that they could start accumulating energy, so that push could be far more intimidating. I think this is more of him getting a force that's large enough to allow him to push out and take that 3rd, and I do not see anything out of LhcAskaria that's powerful enough for him to deny this 3rd just yet. Does has the Roach Warren out. Really nice play there with the Spore Crawler to snipe that Observer. However, the Observer did make it far enough. Did he make it far enough to check out? He did. The Infestor Pit. Fantastic play there. Gonna see that Infestor Pit. Gonna know that Infestors will be out on the field. It's a safe assumption that Infestors are going to be out on the field, but it's nice to see that instead of the Spire, which is a big win on the scouting front for Askaria. And also, this is a big win. Getting that 3rd up, it is going to be scouted by this little Zergling, so LhcAskaria is going to know that he's going to try for a block there, and with so many Zerglings moving out, it'll definitely be an effective push. However, the +1 armor is going to be finishing for Askaria right whenever this attack does take place. You can see the +1 weapons is not done, but the +1 armor is. Those Zerglings are going to be repelled, even if they do get the surround off. With so many Zealots and Sentries and Stalkers thrown into the mix, those Zerglings have to definitely have to retreat. You can see the resources lost tab is pretty much neck and neck, but more importantly for Protoss to grab that 3rd. And what can LhcAskaria do? He can take out the 4th. He can grab his own 4th. He didn't really see the most intimidating of army mixes there. Really got to be careful with that immortal mix, because the Roach Warren is out in the field, where we can see it continually producing Zerglings and Infestors, rather than Roaches, which are going to get chewed alive by the bonus damage from the immortal, as well as the bonus damage from the Stalker. So a good decision right here. Roaches are not going to be as effective as the mobility of Zerglings. Another snipe here from that Observer. Askaria just cannot catch a break, but that's because LhcAskaria is getting up all that static defenses, even though he never scouted any sort of flying tech. Even though he saw the robotics facility and maybe he was worried about a warp prism, but more likely this is just part of his build, getting that Evo Chamber up and then getting up 1 or 2 Spore Crawlers at home protects him against all sorts of things. Those cloaked DPs, Phoenix harassment, Void Ray harassment, as well as helping to deny the scouting from the Observers just because of that added detection. Really nice play there. Another thing that you can notice whenever a master is playing is having that sort of play. Here comes a little bit of delayed scout, 13 supply mark, but it was because at the 10 minute he knew exactly what Askaria was doing, and now at the 13 he knows exactly what he's doing. He's getting a Twilight Council as well as a robotics bay. He already saw the robotics facility, or less he knows that it exists because of the immortals, but now he's going to he's going to know that there's going to be some Colossus out. So we could expect to see less Zergling production. Now, since the robotics facility is coming up, that means the Immortals will be coming out, more AoE, less effectiveness on the Zerglings, more effectiveness on the Roaches, because if there's less Immortals, those Roaches will be more cost effective. Also, the Spire is on the way with the Hive, so maybe a greater Spire. I'd love to see the Broodlords out eventually, and with the 4th and 5th, my goodness, so many expansions for LavaTodes. Well, how many Harvesters does he have? 92! His economy is booming. Wow, 2,500 for the mineral income. He's going to have so much extra money he can just afford to throw away wave after wave of these Zerglings, even though they will be taking added damage from the Colossus when it's getting out on the field. However, extended thermal lance is just now getting started, so I expect it will take quite a while. Oh, nice play there. Even though the robotics fay with the extended thermal lances was being researched, the corruption going down on it, delaying that tech, which is incredibly important, making these Colossus not only more effective, but also allowing them to attack from farther away, keeping them protected. Cannot be discounted there that without the extended thermal lances, they're more vulnerable to the neural parasite, as well as allowing the corruptors, and we can see that 3 of them are on the way right now, to do their business from a safer range, away from so many stalkers right now. Askaria's got a very scary unit composition, but it's very much hodgepodge. All sorts of different things are represented here. It's not very uniform, and it's also very low in tech. Stalkers, Zealots, and Sentries comprising the majority of it. I'd love to see some High Templars thrown into the mix, just because their added AoE will do wonders to all of these Zerglings. However, he's going to be relying mostly on the Zealots and Colossus to take care of them, and with a healthy mixture of Sentries, I don't think he's going to have a problem at all in dealing with so many of these Zerglings. You can see the adrenal glands is going on the way with +3 melee and +1 range. So again, I think Todes is going to be relying so much on these Zerglings that as the number of Colossus begins to rise, I think their effectiveness is going to be limited. He's doing a really good job right now of denying the 4th, being kind of harassy with them. Just flying around the map because they're so incredibly fast and poking and keeping Askaria from being too curious about what's going on in the top left corner of that expansion, lasting so long. Right now, paying for itself 100 times over, really. And again, with 93, I guess 88 Harvesters right now, the economy is just absolutely huge. Look at that, almost 5,000 banked for LavaTodes, and Askaria, who's just now reached max, is going to be moving out. However, LavaTodes going in for the snipe, seeing that the expansion does indeed go up, is going to be forcing to cancel. Oh no, they killed it straight off. It looks like all these Zerglings are going to go down, which is really going to swing the resources lost had heavily in the favor of Askaria, but man, he's got so much money left over, and really he was just freeing up supply. LavaTodes needed that extra supply, get rid of those Zerglings so they can get out more Corruptors, which would translate into more Broodlords. We can see that 3 of them are out on the field right now. We'll follow this guy over to the main army. There we go. Plenty of Infestors, a couple of Roaches, but the Roaches are really there just to soak up some of the damage from the Stalkers, allowing the Broodlords to do the majority of the damage. Number of Broodlords is not enough to take out this force right now, especially because those Corruptors, 6 of them, will have to do quite a lot of work on the Colossus. Here comes a multi-prong harassment. The Stalkers on the left side dealing damage to the expansion, but the majority of the force with the Colossus and the Zealots are swinging down the right. A nice concave by Askaria. He's definitely going to get a lot of kills here, especially with the Infestors going down. That's your major loss. Yeah, Broodlords are expensive, but only 3 or 4 of them are going to go down. Far more deadly is the fact that none of the Infestors are going to survive this fight. And Infestors are so very powerful when they're allowed to continually regenerate energy. Speaking of things that are not going to survive the fight, I'm really surprised that only one of those Colossus did go down. It looks like Askaria's got free range over this. He can continue to push in, succeed in taking out this expansion completely, and then probably swing down south into the third. The Colossus have to be very careful, getting surrounded by the Zerglings. Oh, and they stop to take some pot shots at the hatchery, allowing them to get continually surrounded by the Zerglings. A really nice win there by LavaTodes. He doesn't have to worry about that AoE now. And so now you only have Stalkers and Immortals left to deal with 50 Zerglings on the production tab, plus with 6 more Broodlords coming out. Askaria now does not have the advantage of being able to push down free of charge into this third and take it out. If he continues to hang around, 72 Zerglings on the production tab, everything's going to die very, very quickly. There goes the Zerglings. A good pickup there by LavaTodes to grab them before they ran off and take too much damage. A quick blink from the Stalkers underneath the Broodlords, but I don't think they're going to succeed in taking out all just one Broodlord before the Zerglings and Broodlings finish them up. And now all of a sudden LavaTodes pushes off with a nice force of Zerglings into the top right corner, I'm assuming, trying to deny this expansion while the Colossus has to shamefully walk home. Here comes the Zerglings. It looks like this expansion is going to go down completely, and this is a major loss for Askaria. He can't afford for this Nexus to go down because he needs it. He needs his economy. The Harvester count is neck and neck, but the base count is not. Those Zerglings succeed in taking down the majority of the Photon Cannons plus one Warp Gate, but not the Nexus, none of the probes. So a good hold there by Askaria, but his army is basically nailed to this expansion right now. He can't afford to leave, he can't afford to lose it, and he can't afford to push out and do any more harassment, which gives LavaTodes all the time in the world to get back his Infestor count. 7 Infestors on the way, plus several underneath all these Broodlords. Get out that money composition. This is not what Askaria needed. What Askaria wants is to be able to push out, continually harass, and make it so it's very difficult for LavaTodes to get out the unit composition that he wants. But that's exactly what LavaTodes has right now. He's got all the time in the world because Askaria needs to defend rather than attack. Here comes a run by of the Zerglings making their way in, going to be targeting the only robotics facility. It's going to go down with just a couple of seconds left for the next Colossus to swing out, and then the the Zerglings make their way to the robotics bay next. Oh, and they're also going to be sniping the Cybernetics Core, perfectly picking targets of opportunity. The Cybernetics Core and the robotics facility both fall. It looks like the Zerglings are going to get cleaned up now, but with so many in the back there, those Zerglings, Zealots are not going to have a problem with them, especially with +3 weapons. Even though they're fully upgraded Zerglings, I do not see those Zerglings lasting very long against so many Zealots. Those two Colossus are the only Colossus we're going to see for the rest of the game, I'm assuming, unless Askaria gets them out, but more likely, I would just go for the High Templar tech. If you've got to rebuild that tech, High Templar, far better, especially with so much gas he's got left over. And he's going to be scraping together the mineral count. This base has gone completely undetected for almost 10 minutes now, and I think the gig is finally up. Askaria is moving down with his maxed out army into the bottom left corner, at the same time swinging down with a lot of Zealots into the, I don't even know what base count this one is, but the bottom right expansion. It looks like they'll be swapping bases for now, and a lot of Zealots have made their way down to the ramp leading into the natural, but they're going to be running up against a lot of Infestors, which can either fungal or infested Terran them to bits. Askaria has made short work of the top left expansion, but what has that done to the economy of LavaTodes? Oh dear, he's lost a K on the mineral income, but he's still got 4,000 saved up in the bank, so he's barely going to be feeling that, and in all likelihood the drones completely survived, have moved down to the bottom left and resaturated that base that went down initially. This is a bit more of a loss. 2 bases down now, their base is tied, and the natural is beginning to get mined out, the main is beginning to get mined out, and its saturation is pretty faulty. Here comes a massive push from LavaTodes into Askaria's army, meeting up in a nice choke there, but both armies are so wide that they basically wedge themselves in there, and it's a slugging match. So many Corruptors pushing forward, instantly taking out all of the Colossus and allowing the Broodlords free range underneath. The Infestors, fungal growth in them, but the second the fungal growth expired, all of the Stalkers blinked underneath, sniping out 1 or 2 of the Broodlords. However, with so many Broodlords in the air, all the Stalkers have gone down, and the Zealots are left to basically get picked off. But again, so many of those Infestors have gone down. Only 3 Infestors remain, and those Infestors are so very important at keeping those Broodlords alive. And LavaTodes has got to wait for those Infestors to pop out, or be willing to sacrifice several of his Broodlords, and this is exactly what he's doing. He's relying on the fact that Broodlords have so much HP that they can just basically absorb all the shots coming from the Stalkers, but the Stalkers blink underneath has definitely done quite a number on those Broodlords. I mean, he lost 3 or 4 of them in that engagement, but forcing the Stalkers to retreat back into the welcomed arms of those Photon Cannons. But I don't know what Askaria can do to stop this impending push, especially with 10 more Broodlords coming in from the south, going to be meeting up with the 5 Broodlords already there. The siege weapon of the Zerg is going to be slamming down this expansion, which remains one of the only mining bases for Askaria. A blink underneath, but with so many Broodlords above them, I don't think these Stalkers are going to survive, especially with the reinforcing Zerglings swinging up. Askaria doesn't really have a choice. He taps out Good game there. Very good game indeed. EchO.Todes showing you how it's done. Really good scouting, especially whenever you saw the late gas timing, the late tech timing, knew that the very strong economic build is what Askaria was going for, and then throwing down the third instead, it felt a little delayed to me, but that's not the style of Zerg that I play. It's definitely the style of Zerg that he plays. Askaria, I don't understand exactly what happened with that 600 minerals. I don't know if that was just a late 4-gate that you wanted, and you really were relying on that probe that got sniped down here, coming down to the third, and you were relying on like a pylon placement so that you could warp in a huge round of units. But if that was true, then why didn't you have the gateways already started so that when the warp gate tech finished? I'm not 100% sure what happens. I am probably missing something important. If you guys know, you could let me know, and that would be awesome. You could also let me know if you have a game you want me to cast. You could PM me here or on Reddit, one way or another. I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary. Bye.